I'm so excited for today. I am so excited for today. Wow, I slept all of my makeup off. Sick. Spooky Sunday dinners, spooky Sunday dinners, spooky Sunday dinners. I still can't afford a theme song. Hi, for those of you that don't know, my name is Johnny Taylor, and this is Spooky Sunday Dinners, where every Sunday, it's actually every other Sunday, when I feel like it, I don't know, we talk about a true crime case that I just really want to talk about while we make a fairly easy recipe. So if true crime, cooking, and dark humor is your thing, you might want to hit that subscribe button below. You guys, I am so excited for this episode. This might be my favorite episode ever, and it technically doesn't even have murder in it. By now you probably know it's Pride Month. If you don't know, wake up, Karen. But it's Pride Month, and with Pride Month, I feel like it's really important that we need to know why we have pride. I feel like we get thrown all of these like rainbow t-shirts and all this crap, but we don't even know why we have it. And the story is actually the most badass thing ever. I'm also on a lifelong hunt to get everybody to stop eating Chick-fil-A. Cease and desist letter will probably come. So that's why this week we are going to be talking about the famous, the iconic, the history-changing Stonewall Uprising. While I give you step-by-step instructions, including the secret recipe for a Chick-fil-A sandwich, minus the homophobia. It's a doozy this week. So we know what we're talking about and what we're making, which can only mean it's Karen disclaimer time. I'm ready for you this week, Karen. Karen disclaimer number 1. These are not professional recipes. I don't have the nutritional facts, and they aren't really for nutritional value. It's just what I feel like making that day. If you make this and you don't like it, or you mess up and get sick, it's not my fault. Do better. Stop eating Chick-fil-A. Again, not professional, barely scraping mediocre at this point. Karen disclaimer number 2. This is Spooky Sunday Dinners. Emphasis on spooky. We talk about true crime, murder, disease, and all messed up things, while we sprinkle a nice little bit of comedy on top. That's how I cope with being obsessed with something so just really dark, right? If that offends you in any way, shape, or form, make sure you want to pick up a phone to call, text, email, or direct message me about how horrible of a person I am. You're too late. It's my number 1 personality trait. Get over it. We're going to get into the ingredients we'll need. As usual, they'll always be listed in the description below. This is just so you don't get mad at me. First thing is a boneless, skinless chicken breast. Now, off camera before filming, I went ahead and put it between 2 pieces of plastic wrap and used the smooth side of a meat cleaver to go ahead and tenderize the chicken and make it roughly a 1/2 inch thick. From there, I cut it into 2 pieces, 2 portions, and I'm now marinating it in about 1/4 cup of pickle juice. That's pretty much it, guys. The secret ingredient is pickle juice. Next up, about 1/4 cup of milk. I'm using 2% and 1 egg. 1/2 cup of flour and about a tablespoon of powdered sugar. I've got 1/2 teaspoon of both salt and paprika, as well as 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, garlic powder, and celery salt. Any burger/sandwich buns of choice, and any butter you want. Any pickles, and I'm going to be using vegetable oil to fry this in. Now, Chick-fil-A is known for using peanut oil, but the oil really isn't going to make a difference. So while our chicken is finishing marinating, you can marinate it for about 30 minutes to an hour. I'm going to take our egg and our milk and just beat them together while we kind of get into what the Stonewall Uprising was. Now, I really want to make this clear that this is just like a scraping of the surface of this story. There's so much to it, and I invite you to look at, there's so many great articles, YouTube videos, podcast episodes, anything you can get your hands on about this. I feel like it's so important to have this knowledge. But the story of the riots and the uprising itself starts in 1969 in Greenwich Village in New York City. And at this time, it's actually illegal to be gay, as most of you know. So anyway, the mafia decides that they're basically going to create these underground, quote, gay bars. And at this time, if you were caught serving someone that was, quote, overtly gay, or a restaurant hiring gay employees, they could be completely shut down. So the mafia ended up paying off cops to let them have these like underground, there would be like no running water, they'd bring in cases of illegal liquor, just these like gay bars. And one of those gay bars was called the Stonewall Inn. It cost $3 to get in, and that $3 was also 2 drink tickets. So it was getting through the door and then your drinks as well. And basically the mafia kept these places in business because they would either pay off cops, or they're like wealthy people that would go that weren't out yet. They would threaten to out them. They would get money. Mafia type shit. So the Stonewall Inn was really known as a safe place for anyone in the LGBTQ plus community. Whether you were a homeless teen that got kicked out of your house or an older man that wasn't ready to come out yet. Everyone was accepted here, and that included trans people, and at the time referred to as cross-dressing gays or lesbians. Another really interesting thing about the Stonewall was it was the only club at the time that allowed dancing. So there were these gay bars that you could go in, have a drink, be served, but you couldn't dance. But at the Stonewall, anything went. It felt very safe, and it was honestly sounded amazing. So although cops were paid off because of homophobia and, you know, try to make it look legit, they would go ahead and they would raid these places on a random weekday when not many people were there. And how it worked was the cop that was being paid off would normally tip off the mafia and let them know, hey, there's going to be a raid on Tuesday. They would go. They would get all the alcohol out. The people would know they wouldn't show up that day, and those that did show up kind of knew the drill, how it went, and that's how business ran for a very long time. And normally they would raid these places because they would get anonymous tips that it was a bar that didn't have a liquor license but was serving liquor. So they were using that to go raid it and then just be like raging homophobes, you know. But on June 24th of 1969, there was a raid at the Stonewall. And it was the same thing, operating without a proper liquor license. And some of the employees were arrested, and they actually did have liquor there, and that stash of liquor was confiscated. But after that raid, the NYPD planned a second raid for the following Friday. This was because the NYPD was trying to shut down all gay bars and, quote, sweep the city of gay people, and their hopes were to have the Stonewall close for good. So there was no more like underground mafia stuff. It wasn't on the DL anymore. It was just done. So that Friday / Saturday, because it was like started just before midnight and then went until very early in the morning, we'll get there. But it was June 27th and 28th, and it was an unusually hot night, and the club was completely packed. Everything was going great. Everyone was having a wonderful time. And that's when 8 undercover officers get into the club, 6 men and 2 women. And of course, they start some shit because so they start to arrest people, and most of the people they are arresting are employees. They're also going for drag queens and that same, quote, cross-dressing patrons. And we really need to remember that at this time, dressing as the opposite sex was considered as masquerading as the opposite sex and was a crime. That's when more officers arrive on foot with also a couple of patrol cars and, as they refer to as, paddy wagons. And of course, because there's a bunch of police activity, there's a raid going on, a crowd starts to form outside because it's chisme. I would have done the same thing. All right, now in a separate large bowl, I'm going to go ahead and combine all of our dry ingredients. So that includes our flour, sugar, and all of the spices. So unfortunately, places like this got raided all the time, and most of the patrons that were there that spent so much time in these clubs ended up kind of like knowing the drill of what went down and how you had to act when one of these places got raided. And it was basically cops show up, they put everybody against the wall, and you have to show them your ID. From there, let's say your ID says that you're a male but you're dressed as a female. An officer will then take you into a bathroom or a back room. They will literally make you strip down and, quote, prove your gender. They take this time normally to assault and sexually harass both men and women. From there, if you are not dressed as what they consider the, quote, proper gender, you will be arrested, and excessive force is always used. I am tired of cops. So while some people are actually released because they showed their IDs, they weren't overtly gay, bullshit like that, other people in the club start to be like, you know what? I don't want to show you my ID. I don't have to show you my ID. I haven't done anything illegal. Why are you asking for my ID? I'm not going to show it to you. Well, obviously tension builds, because if you say no to a cop, they get their feelings hurt, they get all pee-pee-hearted. So they just start arresting people for the hell of it. They don't have enough room in the vehicles outside. So they arrest people, they take them outside, they put them on the sidewalk or like the curb, and they tell them that they need to wait there. Now, while these people are waiting there, the people that have been released actually join that crowd of onlookers outside. Now, they start to notice that the more these people who are being arrested are kind of pushing back and questioning, they start beating, assaulting, and molesting these patrons. They go to very masculine dressing lesbian women and start to grope them, assault them, and it was kind of the norm, and they decided that they weren't going to take it anymore. The group outside keeps growing and growing, and they decide now that they're going to mock the police. They're going to make fun of them, they're going to make little remarks, they're going to dance for them, the whole thing. And this obviously pisses them off. So they are being peaceful, but the police decide that they're going to start pushing through the crowd aggressively. So as the police push through the crowd starts to push back, as they should. And while doing this, police actually kind of rough up and forcefully throw Stormy Delivery, I might be saying that wrong, into the back of a paddy wagon. Now, Stormy is this, she's known as and loves to be referred to as a butch lesbian. She's known in the club, just loved all around, and she's trying to yell that her handcuffs are too tight. My handcuffs are too tight, I'm in pain, you can't do this to me. They throw her forcefully into the back of the paddy wagon, and that's when she turns to all of these what they call street kids, and just these kids that they've been helping out and giving them like a safe haven in this club, and she yells to them, "Why don't you do something?" And boy do they. All right, I'm gonna take just a little under a cup of that vegetable oil and put it in a deep pan and get it nice and hot and ready to fry this chicken. So the crowd starts to fight back and say like, oh, you guys haven't been paid off this week by the mob, well, we're gonna pay you off. And they start throwing pennies at the cops to pay them off. So they're throwing pennies, and then it escalates to rocks, bottles, and then finally bricks are being thrown at the police. They're mocking them, they're calling them pigs. People start slashing tires on the police vehicles, which I feel like if I were there, that would have been the first thing I did. Like I would have been slash the tires girl, because I feel like that's so smart. Like I love slash the tires girl. But this is the part of the story where there's actually a huge debate. It is believed that the one and only Marsha P. Johnson actually threw the first brick. Now, please, if you do anything from this episode, look up Marsha P. Johnson. She was also known as Saint Marsha. She was a black bisexual trans woman who was a sex worker and was believed to throw the first brick that night. Marsha later went on to a podcast later in 1987, and she said that she did not throw the first brick, and that was believed that she was trying to be like, not me, I didn't throw it. She said that she actually showed up fashionably late to the riot, which I don't know what I love more, that she threw the brick or like showed up fashionably late. Both work for me. A lot of witnesses there say that she did throw that first brick. They said that it was her and another trans woman by the name of Sylvia Rivera. She was a Latin trans woman that then went on record to say, I didn't throw the first brick, I threw the second brick, but I didn't throw the first brick. So now the police are completely outnumbered. They're not able to get away in their vehicles. Tires are flat. More paddy wagons aren't getting there in time, and they start to get scared. And that's when like half of the cops run off scared, and another big chunk of police decide that they're gonna take some of those innocent people that they arrested for not showing their IDs. They're gonna grab them, whoever hasn't been able to get away. They're gonna pull them back into the Stonewall Inn club and barricade themselves in the club with almost like a hostage situation with completely innocent civilians. Now the crowd is pissed because they can kind of say what's going on, and police have started to destroy the inside of the club completely. Anything they can get their hands on to ruin, they do, and then it's unknown whether it was started outside the club or inside the club, but somebody sets fire to the Stonewall Inn. The crowd freaks out because of the fire, and they actually are able to pull up a parking meter and use it as a battering ram. Others are trying to make like homemade fire bombs, and they're just trying to get the officers and the people out. Now, this is when the TPF, Tactical Patrol Force, which is kind of like riot police. So they show up and they're like, okay, we're gonna get in formation, we're gonna get in a formation that is used to like try to push a crowd back. So from here, they're trying to kind of create this V that they've been shown how to, I guess, do in the academy. And it's supposed to make the crowd like go back and like retaliate. This is my favorite detail of this story. The crowd sees that police are getting in formation, and they proceed to say, well, we can get into a formation too. This crowd of protesters creates a straight line and proceeds to perform a kick line while singing at the Tactical Patrol Force. All right, guys, our oil is nice and hot. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our chicken, make sure we dunk it both sides into our milk and egg mixture, and then into our dry mixture. From there, we are gonna fry it for about 2 minutes on either side. Coastline International. All right, guys, this is what your chicken should look like with that first side down in the pan. So more cops are able to show up, and they use extreme excessive force with that crowd. And by 4 a.m., the streets are pretty much cleared out, and the Stonewall Inn is completely destroyed from the inside out. Luckily, no one died, and there were injuries, and about 13 people were arrested. The protests continue the next day, and that's when protesters go in broad daylight, and they spray paint phrases like "Gay Power," "We Shall Overcome," as well as "We Are Open" on the outside of the Stonewall Inn. And that's when the Stonewall Inn opens, but completely outside. And the streets are filled with protesters, people that are part of the LGBTQ+ community, and allies. They fill the street, and they stand there, and they're ready for the second night of protesting. All right, guys, we're ready to flip our chicken over. When we flip it over, we're gonna go ahead and heat a skillet on medium-low heat so we can toast our buns to start putting our sandwiches together. All right, guys, this is side 2 of our chicken. We're gonna fry it for around 2 minutes and then plate these. So on June 28th, the Stonewall officially opens. Police and TPF are called out again, and tensions start to obviously arise all over again. And at one point, our favorite Saint Marsha P. Johnson, actually climbs up a light pole holding a bag that has a brick in it. And she drops that bag on one of the paddy wagons so it can't get away while arresting people. The Stonewall Uprising actually lasts 6 days total and almost doubles every single day. And now, by July 2nd, protests have also started to spring up at different newspaper offices. And that's because all of these media outlets are showing up, and they're filming what's happening to these gay people, but they're actually putting horrible homophobic headlines in front of it, using homophobic slurs and just kind of like weird on the cop's side. It's very Fox News, and they're not having it. So they start protesting. Because of this, this is where a bunch of gay and queer newspapers start popping up all over the city. It's newspapers and magazines called Gay, Come Out, and Gay Power. All right, guys, time to toast our buns. While our buns are finishing toasting, I'm gonna go ahead and take a paper towel and a cutting board, pull out our pieces of chicken, and let them just drain out and cool off a little bit. rotating out paper towels as they soak through. Now, the Stonewall Uprising was a turning point in the gay rights movement, although it didn't start it. But it's really important that we remember what these humans went through and why we have a Pride Month. It's not all about rainbows on t-shirts. It's about people like Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia, and Stormy. And on the anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, on June 28th of 1970, the very first gay pride parade took place. Several hundred people took place in the march starting at the Stonewall Inn, and the procession stretched actually over 15 city blocks, and eventually thousands joined in. That same year, LA, San Francisco, Boston, and Chicago all had the same type of gay pride celebrations as well. And the celebrations have grown to what we know as Pride Month now, and it's celebrated all over the world, but it did start right outside of the Stonewall Inn in 1970. Once our buns are toasted to our liking, we're gonna go ahead and put a light spread of butter on both the top and bottom bun, as well as cut up some pickles and plate these better than Chick-fil-A does, because that shit falls apart all the time. So I don't know why we're still eating there. All right, guys, I've got my buttered bread. I'm gonna do 3 pickle slices, each sandwich, and then drop our fried chicken right on top. Now, every time we think of Pride and we celebrate Pride Month, I really just wanna stress that we have to thank again Stormy Delavari, Marsha P. Johnson, and Sylvia Rivera. Please take the time to learn about Pride, learn about why we have these marches, and if you're questioning whether you don't have a march, you should probably just be thankful that you don't. It's important that we share these stories so that we can continue the fight for equal rights and educate ourselves as much as possible. And for the love of God, stop eating Chick-fil-A. And here are our finished Chick-fil-A minus the homophobia sandwiches. Thank you guys for cooking with me this week, and thanks for letting me tell you this insane but so important story. Be sure to comment below future crimes you want me to cover and recipes you want me to try. Come on, Ben, we gotta do the song. Stop stealing, we gotta do the song. Thank you for watching Spooky Sunday Dinners. I am still singing. I still can't afford a theme song. I'm actually serious, the only secret ingredient in that is pickle juice. These sandwiches are not for you. These are not for you. These sandwiches are not for you. This is not your sandwich. I don't care. Thank you.